Welcome to Ingredient Insiders. I'm John Magazzino.
And I'm Andrea Parkins.
Thanks for watching this clip of our interview with Chef Duff Goldman.
For the full episode, find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Links in the description below. Let's talk about this amazing career that you've had. You grew up in the Mid-Atlantic, Baltimore area?
So kind of everywhere. I was born in Michigan, lived in Kansas for a little while. Then we lived in Northern Virginia and then Massachusetts. I graduated high school up in New England and then moved to Baltimore for undergrad. Left Baltimore when I graduated, went to culinary school in St. Helena. And then I kind of worked all over, worked in Napa and Colorado and Outer Banks and DC and, all different places. And then I one day decided that I was kind of overcooking. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I wanted to focus on music and, really try to be a full-time musician. So I moved back to Baltimore, which was where all my friends who were musicians were, and got in a band and, started doing the thing and touring and everything. And I started selling cakes out of my apartment just to pay the rent until, that big, Atlantic Records contract came through.
Until Robert Plant called you and said, I need someone.
I need you. I need you. You're up, Goldman. Right? So I was making cakes. And then my sous chef, Jeff, we went to college together, also a musician. And he was working as an architectural model builder. So like before they were doing all that stuff with CAD, they had people that would, here's the plans, build this, building. And he was like, I want to tour and record and, focus on music full time. So he quit his job and started working for me. Then another one of our friends, another musician, quit his job. He was a interior landscaper. It's basically like watered plants in office buildings. And he was like, yes, screw this. And so he started working for me. So basically I just started collecting like all my musician friends. And, Baltimore's not a huge city. And so, if somebody in Baltimore is doing something cool, people hear about it. And, but like pretty soon people are like, yeah, there's this like weird group of like dudes in rock bands with tattoos that make these like Martha Stewart beautiful wedding cakes. It's it's a very Baltimore thing. Baltimore's a quirky place. And that was sort of how like the bakery sort of got off the ground. And then we
But did it start with wedding cakes or did it start with like these like the crazy cakes that I think you're kind of known for?
The thing about the crazy cakes is that they didn't come from like my innate desire to change the culinary landscape. It came from when I started that bakery, I would make anything people wanted, right? So if somebody came to me like, hey, can you make a cake that looks like my car? I'd be like, sure, try to figure out how to do that, And I would just say, I literally would say yes to everything because I was just like, I need to sell a cake. If I don't sell a cake, I don't pay the rent. So somebody wants a cake that looks like their dog, you want to cut its head off and eat it, go for it, man. Cool. So that's kind of where that came from, is we were just known as like, when people would call other bakeries and they'd be like, hey, can you make a cake that looks like a vampire with blood coming out its face? They'd be like, call Duff. Like, it's not what we do. And so that I think was sort of how we got this like reputation. But then I got an email once from this girl who was going to MICA, which is an art school in Baltimore. And she's like, I want to intern there. And I was like, I don't have a business license. I don't have insurance. I don't have a health department certification. Like, we are not a legal business, and she's like, doesn't matter. I want to work there. And I was like, fine. So she showed up and was instantly better at almost everything than I was. And she had never touched a cake before. She just was an incredible artist. And so I hired her. And then I hired a roommate. And then I hired a bunch more of their friends. And so the bakery became this collective of musicians and artists, and we had one girl went to FIT. It was just a very creative place, and so with all that creativity under one roof, that's when we really started expanding, and just like we could literally make anything anybody wanted.
It's so
It's a really cool story.
It's like an artist colony of all these different talented people. Were you an artist? Like, do you draw? Were you into that whole art side of it?
Yeah.
There's so much artistry in this in the baking.
There really is. So my great grandmother was a baker, and she was a weaver and a milliner. She used to make like ladies' hats. My grandmother, her daughter, was a photographer and a silversmith and an enamel smith, which was this very kind of beatniky sort of art form. And she was like a pure artist. Like she was a fine artist. She was friends with Georgia O'Keeffe. Like she was, they were like,
Wow.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
Big deal.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom is a stained glass artist, and she does mosaics and ceramics. She owned a pottery studio in Venice Beach in the 60s and swears up and down that she didn't smoke weed.
That's really funny.
I was like, Mom, just come on.
It's okay. You can admit
it's
it.
okay, man.
Right. So it's my whole family, we're very artistic. And then, everyone's just sort of waiting, for mine art to sort of come out. Like, what's Duff going to do, And I was like,
What's your
13.
superpower?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, when's it going to happen? And I like, I was like good in art class and I paid attention, and I did stuff, but I wasn't like, nothing was really like, oh my God, like Duff is amazing. But then one day my mom was in my room and found like 3 milk crates full of spray paint. And she was like, what the? And so I get home. She's like, why do you have, 80 cans of spray paint?
Are you huffing?
Right.
Are you a graffiti artist?
Yeah. So I took her to this spot that I used to practice. It was like underneath this bridge. You couldn't see it from the road. So it was like super safe. And, showed her all the graffiti I'd been doing. And she was just like, oh, man, And I was good at it. And it was funny, like, seeing my mom's face. Because, like, on the one hand, she's my mom. And she's like, this is horrible. My kid is this, vandal. But on the other hand, like, I was making cool stuff. I wasn't tagging. I was doing big, beautiful, murals. And she was just like, that's insane. Got me to start to focus a little bit more and, like really, take art a little more seriously. And so I started doing metal sculpture too. And so I was like, I tried different things, ceramics and drawing and all the things. And I was like, I'm an okay drawer. I'm not a very good painter at all. Like painting I love to do it. It is such a struggle for me. It's just, I don't see it like that, but I can sculpt. If I see, I can make something.
Right.
So, I was sculpting. I was a graffiti artist. I went to culinary school and we started doing cakes. And like when they said like, yeah, we're going to do cakes, I wasn't that interested. I was just like, like that's for old ladies with blue hair.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like who decorates cakes? And like, I was, given all this material, royal icing and rolled fondant and modeling chocolate and all these things that you could sort of sculpt out of. I was like, oh, this is cool. And so I started making stuff, different things. Not things that look like traditional cakes. And my teachers were like, like you should think about doing this, as a career. You're good at this. And then I was like, I don't know. It's not really for me. I wanted to be like a fine dining pastry chef in some little restaurant in New York and be on the cover of, Pastry Art magazine. And then I was like, no, I don't want to cook anymore. And so I kind of quit and tried to become a bass player. And then just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I mean,
So the art is in your blood. I mean,
It
you're
is.
a creative.
I feel like this episode should be art
It could be.
Yeah.
Why not?
or like creativity or
Do you like sweet things to eat? Like, do you eat your own cakes? Do you like that?
I love cake.
Do you go to pastry shops and are like, oh my God, I gotta like check out this?
So like if
what
we
this
said
guy's
sweet or
doing?
savory, you would say sweet?
No, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't, again, it's like, picking your favorite Zeppelin album, right? It's just
Right.
what kind of mood are you in? Sometimes
Right.
you want Led Zeppelin 4, right?
Right.
Sometimes you're a little moody, right? You want presents, you know what I mean? The funny thing so we were like these group of weirdos making cakes, and then Food Network called and they were like, hey, we're doing this competition, do you want to compete? And so me and my sous chef went and we competed. And like, we came in third place. Like it wasn't, we didn't like completely embarrass ourselves, but like we were not nearly as good as some of those cake decorators were just light years beyond what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, but we, it was like me and my buddy from college, and like, we went in like, t-shirts and shorts, and everybody else is in like chef coats, and we were like cracking jokes because we're 2 dudes in rock bands, and
Right.
everybody else is like pastry chefs. And so Food Network kept asking us to come back, and I was like, we never win. Like we never won. We would
Right.
never win ever. sometimes we would lose spectacularly. Like our stuff would fall apart. Like it was, and they kept, and I'm like, why do you keep having us back? They're like, you're funny. And I was like, oh, well, okay.
It wasn't about winning.
It wasn't about my cake decorating ability, right?
Right. Well,
You were entertaining.
I was entertaining, right?
Thanks for listening to this episode of Ingredient Insiders.
you can find the products we discussed on today's episode at chefswarehouse.com or your favorite specialty retailer.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram @Ingredient Insiders and Chef's Warehouse @Where Chefs Shop.